Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. Before we get into the show, I just wanted to thank Keddy Fabrications for the roll cage that he did for me. You guys obviously would have seen it on Instagram. What a cage. Looks awesome. So yeah, he's up here and we also got R&J up here. So thanks to them guys. So R&J Bendigo jumping on board. Really appreciate it. And look, new backdrop looking pretty cool. Thanks to all the guys who obviously always jump back on board. Really appreciate it. But on to today's guest. We are speaking to John Perkins. So I've dabbled a little bit with him, talking about the MAZDAs. Great guy. He knows a lot about MAZDAs. So anything Mazda related, go to him. Rotaries are his specialty. But look, it was a great chat. We spent the whole time, having a good old chat just about motorsport, about Mazdas. He's done a fair bit, so it's a great chat, and I'd hang around. So yeah, and if you guys haven't, follow, subscribe, like it all. So thank you guys, and enjoy this episode of Grassroots Racer. How did your passion for motorsport, and how did you get started in racing?
What happened with me? There was a number of local guys racing here in Kyneton, where I come from. The Verica family, the Gervin family. A number of those guys were racing. A guy called Alan Fielding, he was running. Jeff Hare, local auto parts guy, he was racing at the time too with a Charger. And they were all running, and there was a local car club that had an autocross track. And I started out there doing autocrosses in with my daily driver, and did my first sprint meeting at Calder in my first car, which was a 65 model Falcon Ute.
That's pretty much the way that lots of guys get started in motorsport. For like young kids like myself who have been lucky enough to go through go-karting, it's a really good path. But I did autocross and stuff at the age of 12 because I wanted to move on from go-karts. And it is one of the best forms of motorsport. You get bang for your buck. You get to run around, have so much fun.
And you learn a better set of car control skills, I think, on the dirt too. I went from autocrosses then into rally, and rallied for a number of years. And then was actually building a rally car, which is my current RX-7 IP car that I have. And then the Verica brothers, Mark Verica's sons, Kane and Daniel, came to me and said, look, we're going to build IP RX-7s. You should turn your car into an IP car and come race with us. And, I used to help out their dad and their uncle with their engines and, their rotary engines. And so I did Kane and Dan's engines and their cars and helped them with their cars, and then eventually built mine into an IP car. So that's why you'll see at times 3 green RX-7s getting around.
Yeah, and your car looks awesome. It's a very bright green. Well, it's not bright, but it's you can see the green on blend line. So the car definitely gets around. And how'd you go last week?
We ran a new car that I built for Bruce Henley, an RX-8 IP car with a 30mm peripheral port, Hollinger 6-speed gearbox, and that went well. We ran it in sports sedans as just a test session. Bruce wasn't comfortable in the car, so we stuck a good friend of his, Scotty Stevenson from Apogee Motorsport in South Australia. Scotty drove for us and did an exceptional job. Ended up, we got it down to, he ended up doing a 1 minute 23, I think, down there, which for the first time out in an RX-8 was a very good time. I think that's a couple of seconds quicker than any other IP RX-8 has been around there. So that was very good.
What does Opie's car do?
I look again, without looking it up on that soft, I won't quote Richard's times, but Richard was at my place the other day and said, he said he was a couple of seconds slower, he thought. So they were his words when he was at my place on Wednesday. So he actually had a look at the car and was very impressed as well.
Yeah, I was talking to Richard. So for those who don't know, Richard is the owner of Bendigo Mazda, who have jumped on board with me, which I appreciate a lot. And he races in True Production with John, and your son races in True Production too, doesn't he?
My son Josh, we're building an RX-7 IP car for Josh. and he will probably debut. I don't think we'll be out this year with Josh's car, but I think we'll be out next year with Josh's car, for sure. Certainly next year we will. Certainly he needs to at least have a drive of our couple of cars we have now, and then he can then we'll get his car going for him, and hopefully we'll do a father-son in IP. That'll be great.
Yeah, 100%. And while talking about father and son, have you ever built a Bathurst 6-hour car? Because I know it's quite popular for people to do father-son drives in. And have you done a race with him?
We did obviously the Bathurst 12-hour with the 2 Grand Am RX8s. We ran those in the Bathurst 12-hour in 2015. That was certainly a big bucket list item for me. Being an ex-rally guy, I'm into more endurance racing. So to do an endurance race like the Bathurst 12-hour, I had a good friend of mine that I started autocrossing with back in the days, Barry McGaw, who is chief of sub-assembly at Gary Rogers Motorsport. He was my co-team chief. He was, and we both ran the team and ran the 12-hour team, and that worked really well. We finished with those cars. We finished second and third in class in the 2015 12-hour and got both cars to the finish, which was a pretty amazing feat. That's pretty much good in a Bathurst 12-hour race, just to let alone finish, because that obviously was on just this weekend past, and it was a full race for some people. So the Bathurst obviously has its challenges, it always does. And to finish your cars there, it's a great achievement, and on the podium, obviously, as well. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, look, we got second and third in invitation class, which was very good, you know. I know a lot of people that have been to the 12-hour, and they've been, you know, it's taken them 5 or 6 attempts to even get to the finish. We got 2 cars to the finish in our first attempt, which was, you know, a great credit to both, you know, myself, Barry, and all of the team. You know, all of the team were, you know, a lot of my personal friends from all around the country and IP competitors, and you know, I had IP, you know, my IP mate Paul White from Sydney was the fuel guy. You know, my local mate that I went to kindergarten with, Darren McKimmie, and his son Nick were my wheel guys. Dan Verica was my spike man to the Airjacks. Bryden Derbyshire, another IP guy, he was the dead man on the fuel. Graham Gilliland, who runs an RX7 sports sedan, who I build the engines for and work for during the day, he was my tyre guy. He looked after all the tyres for us. So, you know, I conscripted everybody. You know, my wife and my daughters and Graham's wife, Anne, that was our catering team. They fed us all, you know. So we really brought in a whole bunch of, you know, our friends and our families to help us achieve what we did, and it was a really great thing. You know, no one ever says no. I've never heard a bad word from anybody about that effort that we did there. That was, you know, everyone always has glowing reports, so it's great. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah, that's obviously really good, and to come off a success at Bathurst, like, it's just the best feeling I bet you could possibly have. And look, it's a big team effort. You know, something like that, it'd probably be very costly, because you got to try and run up with guys who come from, you know, different countries and are trying to win the Bathurst 12-hour. Because even Valentino Rossi over the weekend, MotoGP champion, and he was saying, like, it's a big event, and to come over here is something special. So from someone like him who's got a big name, it's no small event.
Yeah. No, look, we were. I was very lucky that we were. You know, we had 8 drivers who paid for their drives, and you know, and then we had, obviously, Bruce Henley owned the cars. Bruce was a big contributor to this whole deal, and a great supporter. Bruce is a really good friend. He still is, and we still talk to each other nearly every day. But he's a great supporter of motorsport, and been, you know, took some time off for a while and come back. And he'll be out again with his new car in Winton in a few weeks' time for the next fixed 8 round in IP, which will be good.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And quick question: those cars that you ran at Bathurst, were they rotaries?
Yes, they were. the cars that we ran in Bathurst were the RX-8 Grand Am spec cars that were built by Mazda Motorsport in the US, and they were run in the Grand Am series in the US by. They were built and developed by a company called SpeedSource. They are effectively like a current V8 supercar, being a full tube frame chassis. Chassis built by Riley Sports Cars. Up to the 20-inch line, the roll cage line. Then the roll cage and the rest of the car is finished by SpeedSource. They're a full carbon body, 6-speed sequential MCO transaxle, 18-inch. You know, they're big Brembo brakes, 18-inch by 11 wheels. You know, big slick tyres. You know, they're basically a V8 supercar, but with a 20V normally aspirated 20V PP engine in there. 400 horsepower at the wheels, weighs 1,100 kilos.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Look, you know, they're an awesome car to drive. I'm lucky enough that I own one. I own the 2010 Daytona 24-hour winning car. I'm lucky enough to own one. So, you know, we get it out every now and then at Winton for a bit of a test day and a bit of fun. I've raced it at Phillip Island in the National Sports Sedan Series, and also at Tarlin Bend at the first ever race meeting at Tarlin Bend. I raced it there.
That's so cool. You'll have to give me a drive one day.
We'll see if we can get you a couple of laps for sure. But it's certainly it's a totally different level of race car to drive, without a word of a lie. Totally different level of race car to drive.
Obviously, and when you start talking about slicks on a Mazda RX-8, you know, it's got to have some power behind it. So,
Exactly.
you know, it's not going to be slack. And but look, I think it's really impressive that you know, you guys built a car that went the whole 12 hours, and especially being a rotary, since lots of people don't give them the credit that they deserve. So,
look, I've been building rotary engines since I was 20 years old. I'm 58 now. So we've had a lot of practice at it. We've developed a lot of different systems, a lot of different processes, all the different little tricks that we put into all the engines these days to make them last. Genuinely now, you know, most of the engines I see, they run for like 10 race meetings, they get a service. You know, I've got engines now that are up into the 80 and 90 race meetings and never had any major failures. You know, those engines are 10 plus years old. Yeah. So, you know, there's your answer. You know, you got to service it. You know, you got to put rings and bearings through it like you do every engine, so to speak, you know. But other than that, you know, the biggest thing with a rotary engine, without a word of a lie, is engine tune. That's what will make the engine live its longest, is the engine tune, oil pressure and engine tune. Yep. You know, I've been involved with Motec engine management systems since the very beginning of Motec with Richard Bendel. I exclusively use that on all our cars and nothing else. And I've done that because there's so many systems out there and you've got to learn each one, and each one has its own little tricks. I figured that I need to stick with one and learn it correctly, and that's what I've done. And that's why I'm wholly and solely Motec and will continue to be.
Yeah, and obviously I came out to see you not too long ago. Oh, it was actually probably last year. Yeah, maybe I think about it. It was on the start of this year, end of last year, and I had a look at your car, and it's got a lot of technology in it, so it looks very cool. You know, the whole passenger seat floor is full of Motec gear, so obviously your car, you would virtually know everything about it.
Yeah, my car is probably, for an IP car, is probably one of the most technological cars out there. I have drive-by-wire throttle. I've got flat shift. I've got torque mapping. There's a number of things in there that you know, when you start researching and understanding what it all is, gives you an advantage. My car has every sensor you can imagine, down to brake temperatures, brake pressures, live tyre temps, you know, across the tyre, four tyre temps across the tyre live all the time, infrared tyre temps. So, you know, my car has every sensor you can just about buy on there. So, you know, it's certainly, it makes it easier to, biggest thing about data is obviously to coach your driver and and obviously make changes to the car and see that you're going in the right direction. But the other thing too is with data is you move the car forward at a greater rate. You can see the change that gives you an advantage and the change that doesn't. So you can certainly there's a huge amount there. You can also foresee issues happening before they do. You're recording things like the amount of amps the fuel pump's pulling. So as soon as you see the amperage on the fuel pump start to increase, you know it's starting to die, so you replace it before it costs you a race. Things like that. So there's a huge amount of information you gather and analyse afterwards to track the car and track where the car's state is.
Yeah, fair enough. Honestly, and it's probably one of them things, like, by the sounds of it, it costs a bit to put in it, but if you were to run that car for years and years and years, you'd probably save a bit of money because it'll tell you before something big goes wrong, so you can stop it.
Exactly. And look, the other thing too, where it saves you money is, we will go out on a Friday test day, and you'll see a lot of the guys. They'll go out and they'll just go out in every session and do every lap they possibly can. We'll quite often make a change to the car, go out and only do 2 laps in a session and park it. Because we've got the information we need from those 2 laps. We analyse that, and then we make a change before the next session.
Yeah.
So you're putting less kilometres on the car, less miles, less wear and tear. So it saves you money in that way, in a big way.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
I'm not going to deny it because, your car, obviously, it'd probably run on rails if it's got that much sensors in it, technology.
Look, it's certainly, we run IP and we run the IP Nationals every year. And as I say, I'm not a world-class driver by any means, but the last 3 or 4 Nationals, I finished 15th out of the fastest 100 cars in the country in Tassie and Queensland, and then when we were in Perth, I finished 10th.
Yeah.
So you're finishing 10th outright in the fastest 100 cars in the country. So still a pretty good achievement for a 58-year-old. For a guy that's in his 50s. So when you're running against young kids like yourself, mate, who are always got that edge on you, it shows that you can. The old dog with a bit of technology can still do okay.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to deny it. Lots of kids my age they've come up with all the training that they could ever want, and they get in the car and be pretty fast straight away. So for you to put it against them, I'm not going to deny it. It's a good effort.
Yeah, look, certainly, I enjoy what we do. The big thing about motor racing that I enjoy the most, especially the IP Nationals, is when we go away to those events. And this year, the IP Nationals are in Darwin. It's too big a trip for us this year to go to Darwin. Bruce and I have discussed it. So Bruce towed my car over to Perth for me in his semi last time. He was really good to do that. This time we talked about going to Darwin, but the cost and the time away for both of us is just too great, so we can't do that. Bruce has got a business he's now running, so he needs to concentrate on that. And so sadly we won't go to the IP Nationals in Darwin, but certainly we'll look forward to next year. And I think it's back in Victoria next year at Phillip Island. And I think your car, if you put a set of Yokohama tyres on it, mate, your car would be eligible to run.
I've got a few performance parts here and there I could probably source, and I've got a set of. Yeah. I don't know why, but when I bought mine, I got a set of slicks with it. So, I'd just chuck a set of slicks on, and she'll be right.
Look, I mean, IP, obviously we have a control tyre, which is Yokohama AO50s. So you'll have to run those. But I think the rest of your car, being production car based, would comply to the IP class. So. You certainly wouldn't have any troubles there having a run in IP if you wanted to.
Yeah, I see a lot of those. A lot of the RX8 guys in whatever class you do, whether it's RX8 Cup, Formula RX8, they have run their cars in improved production for track time, and look, it's more for the improved production category, which is awesome. And state series isn't bad, so it's always good to have a look around. But for the nationals, that sounds very exciting, and to go against the top 100 would be something special.
Oh, look, I think it was about 2017 or 16. I think when we had the IP Nationals in Victoria. We had 147 entries.
Ooh.
So 147 IP cars from all around the country came. So I think when you see the next one at Phillip Island, you'll certainly see a big field like that. So, and the good thing about IP is if you've got a V8 Commodore or a V8 Falcon and you spend a big heap of money and you run at the front, that's good. But also with IP, there's always someone to race with. There's always someone that's doing your lap times. There's always a challenge. And they're a big family, you know. I couldn't say a bad thing about anyone in IP. Like I said, that's what I said about the Nationals is I enjoyed that the most, to be able to catch up with all my interstate mates from IP, whether it be Glenn Malling from WA, whether it be the guys from Queensland, you know, there's always, you know, Dave Walden, and there's a number of people that I know from all around the country that I always, you know, get to catch up with. So, and the Nationals is that time where we get to catch up together and have a race and have a laugh and help each other fix our cars if we need to, and get to the end, you know. It's always good.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the RX-8 would be one of them cars where it'd be awesome through the corners, and then on the straight, someone would easily get you. But it depends on the tune, I guess. If you're running one of your cars, it probably wouldn't. I reckon you could probably get an RX-8 to go pretty good on a straight. But for a virtually stock production car RX-8, I reckon good through the corners, but it'll struggle on the straights at Phillip Island.
Look, I think Phillip Island is, certainly you'll have a small handicap on the straights. My IP RX-7 is just 300 horsepower at the wheels. It's nothing special, but they do handle well. And that Phillip Island is a handling circuit. So the RX-8 should be very competitive there against the other rotors without a problem. Certainly, we're about to find out when we take Bruce's new car down there, and we'll find out how good it really is. But look, certainly when we did testing, Dan Verica drove it in testing over at the Broadford Motorcycle Track, and his lap times were around about 3 seconds quicker than the RX-7 around Broadford.
Cool.
So and that's a twisty circuit. So I certainly expect at Winton that the RX-8 will be quite on the pace without a problem.
Yeah. What lap times do you guys do around Broadford?
I think roughly. The RX-7, I think the RX-8, Dan was doing, I think it was a below 103.
I think that's equivalent to my lap record at Broadford in a supercart. So not a car, but a supercart. I think I did a 103, and that was the lap record for juniors.
Yeah.
So
we did. I think it did a 103. You did a 103.8 or something like that. I think it was. So
that's pretty quick.
Yep. The only thing that beat him on the day was a Hayabusa, a Suzuki Hayabusa powered little. Wasn't a supercart, but it was more like a future tourer type car.
Yeah.
Or an Aussie Legend type car, one of those with slicks on it. That was the only thing that beat us on the day. There were Lamborghinis, there were Porsches, there were everything there, and we were 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker than they were. It was quite amazing. So,
but I mean, with them hypercars, like around Bathurst, they'd give you a run for your money because in a straight line, they're obviously just going to go. But look, when you're on a tight track like Broadford, it's a real driving thing as well as it is a slower car probably do you a bit of favours.
Yeah. My green RX-7, I think, is done a 105 around there, so
that's pretty good. It's do you think that you could get under 1 minute around the circuit one day?
Maybe. Look, it's like you said. We'll just have to wait and see what presents itself, whether we get back to Broadford again or not.
Yeah, it's a really good circuit, but probably not for racing. Probably better for testing.
Yeah, there's a couple of areas that I think at the top of the back straight, at the top of the hill there, from a circuit racing perspective, needs a little bit more runoff. That's all. It goes up a bank. there, and I think to actually get a permit to race there, they'll have to probably alter that, which I don't think they'll do. So I think the cars will struggle in that area there. But other than that, look, it's a wonderful circuit. It's well looked after. It's well presented. You know, we went over with the VIP track day team, and Adam Ronk. He puts on a great event. You know, lovely bloke and lovely team that ran it. So certainly they made us feel welcome and helped us in every way they could. They were great.
That's awesome. I honestly think, you know, the Mazda RX-7s and 8s, they are brilliant cars, well balanced from what I've noticed. Very well balanced cars. Would you say that the RX-8s are pretty much a big man engine from how far they sit there?
Look, the RX-8, from a suspension mechanical perspective, the RX-8's a much better car. It's got much more. It's a heavier car, but it's got much more mechanical grip. The suspension design and platform is far better than the RX-7. With the RX-7, to make the RX-7 handle, you've got to work hard at the suspension. You've got to get the car low. You've got to get your roll centers right. You've got to build a special short set of struts. You've got to have specially valve shocks. Your spring rates are critical. You've got to do an adjustable watch link so you can get your balance right. You know, it's a complex build where the RX-8, buy a good off-the-shelf suspension package from, we put an Öhlins suspension package in Bruce's car, and straight out of the box, it's just on the money. Absolutely perfect Öhlins. The Öhlins package they supplied us was perfect. There's a number of other suppliers around that do a good system. But yeah, the Öhlins package was on the money. I think in your case, you're going to have to run a control suspension package. Yep. And you're going to have to, I think, is it going to be who's the control supplier for your class?
We'll bring out Formula RX-8 regulations before the first round, but they're going to say you can run RX-8 regulations. So I believe Rick Shaw had a few manifolds, a few exhausts that he did himself. And then I think Formula RX-8 would say, well, here's an alternative that we're going to run, and whatever. So I think it's not going to be too different. I think it'll be quite similar.
Yeah, look, realistically, from a cost perspective, you should mention to these guys about this Öhlins package. I'm very impressed with it for the money. It wasn't super expensive, by no means. We've had the package for a while, so I won't mention dollar values because a lot of things have changed since COVID, and this was bought before COVID. So I won't mention dollar values, but certainly, I can't recommend this Öhlins package that we got highly enough. It's just straight out of the box. It's just on the money. The spring rates are perfect. The shocker valving spot on. It gave us a really quick, controllable car straight out of the box.
I think that's something that I'll talk to the guys. I'll bring it up and see what they think, because the guys are very open to opinions at the moment, because as well they do have the experience from racing RX-8 Cup, but I believe they want to try and make it as affordable as possible for everyone, which is fair enough, because that's what their series is aimed around. They've advertised it as an affordable category, so they're still looking for solutions to make sure it's as open as possible, so anyone can really say, oh, well, it's not that expensive to build a car, I'll build a car and jump in, which is what's encouraged.
Exactly, yeah, look, certainly. Look, I've mentioned to a couple of people about this series, and there's a couple of people that are on the fence at the minute, just watching how things are going. So we'll see how that all plays out. But certainly, look, it's if the series takes off and you can get enough cars, I think it'll be a good thing, definitely. But certainly, One Make Series is certainly the pathway that needs to be followed by the young up and comers like yourself. That's something that needs to be followed. Your pathway is probably going to be this, and then possibly into Toyota 86 or something like that. Is your pathway next? The other pathway, which a lot of people are taking at the minute, is the Hyundais, and that's a good category. Very, very competitive. Costs in that have blown out. I won't deny that. I believe they've blown out the costs. When you got young kids paying $40,000 for a Hyundai build, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money,
Yeah. And I think this is what so I was talking to the guys at Formula RX8. So I don't have anything to do with the board. I talk to people there. And that's the total opposite of what they want to happen. They want to keep this as affordable as possible. And it is a breakaway from RX8 Cup, and it's a whole nother thing, that story. But it's not just to have a go at them and try and undercut them. It's just to sort of make it affordable for young racers, give them the exposure that they want. So the benefit for me is I can be on the high-tech series. I'm on national television. My guys here who support me and put in, they put in efforts to keep me on the racetrack. They deserve something back out of it. So this is what we love from Formula RX8, and we hope that the series will take off well. And I have trust in Justin that the series will do well. And
again, you need to support them as you are, and I can see that you're doing that. And certainly, I think if everyone has the same mindset as yourself and supports this class, then I'm sure it will go forward. I don't doubt that. But yeah, like I said, look, let's just it's a bit of a watch this space, that whole situation at the minute. So let's see how it all takes off. And if I'm around at that test session day that they're going to run up there, I might pop up for a look. We'll see how we go for time.
Yep. Well, anyone who's watching is always welcome to my garage. I don't have anything to hide. I'll show you around, and you can have a look at my car, sit in it, take a picture, whatever. I'm happy. But look, I'm not going to discredit other series out there, but at the moment, Hyundai XLs are getting a little bit expensive. My original path was to go Formula V, which is a great category to get into if you're interested in open wheelers. But then we were looking because we wanted to follow the Formula V, Formula Ford path, but Formula Ford is a little bit out of price range for the moment. If you can afford it, I would recommend it, but I can't afford it, so can't do it.
Yeah, look, exactly right. You've got to do what your budget allows, and you're still a young fellow. You've still got a few more years to go before you get your road license. So there's your answer. There is try and do as much as you possibly can. The biggest thing I can say to any young people when they're competing, starting out in motorsport and competing, don't try and spend all the money on making your car the fastest. Spend the money on going to the track and doing laps. That's what will get you faster. Doing laps. Do laps. That is the secret. And I can tell that straight away. I've been a once-a-year racer for the last few years, and when I come out, it takes me a day and a half to get my speed back. Where if I raced, every few months, then the pace is there all the time, straight out of the box, consistently. And you don't have the off-track excursions.
Yeah. Just before COVID, and even just through it, I was almost at the point where I could jump into whatever I was racing at the time, whatever I had, and within the first practice session, I could kind of go, yeah, I've figured out what I'm doing, even if it was at a new track. It was, so when I had lots of time in the seat, it was really good. And obviously, I'm gonna keep trying to do the Motorcanas and whatnot. Unfortunately, I have a blown up Ford Focus, which I may have blew up at Winton. But look, it's great. I am the current junior champion, so I hope lots of kids sort of take inspiration from it. And I won't lie, I went into it very cocky, and I was like, oh, do I really want to do this? Like, I'll win it. I lost for the first 2 years. Like, didn't stand a chance compared to some of the kids out there. So it's a great form of motorsport, and I think a lot of people discredit it.
Look, I've done a lot of Motorcanas over the years as well. I used to turn up to the Motorcanas with my RX2 rally car and give the minis a hell of a hard time. They'd only just beat me, and that was that. They used to hate that, And it's all about car control. That's the good thing about a Motorcana. It's all about car control. We used to, I must admit, I probably haven't been to a Motorcana for 30 years, but I certainly do have some good memories there. Definitely, and certainly autocrossing as well. That's something that soon we have an autocross track here in Kyneton, where I believe that I do need to put a car back together and get out there with my son and have some fun again. Definitely.
Yeah, You should try do the Easter sale yards dash. You know where they go to the sale yards on the asphalt and they have a
Yes.
bit of fun, do the motorcanas. Yeah, that's always a bit of fun.
Yeah, that would be great. With certainly it's on the list. With my son Josh and I have got a little Mitsubishi Lancer that we got before COVID that we need to finish putting back together. That was going to be our autocross and our autocross car and our that test car. So we'll get to that when we again lots of projects and having too many other people's race cars to work on, my projects tend to get put to the back burner a little bit, which is probably not a good thing.
Yeah, not always a good thing. But John, I've got a couple more questions for you. Number one, I know you had some advice for young people, but what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
My 16-year-old self, I'd tell him to stay at school, do year 12, do as much maths and science as you can because that's what you'll need for the future. It doesn't matter what job you want these days; it all involves maths and science. So stick with that genuinely.
Yep, that's a good one. I'm gonna try and finish year 12. So,
Yeah,
John, is there anyone else you'd like to thank who has helped you along the way?
yeah. I've had lots of people help me along the way. Certainly, no major sponsors over time, but certainly a lot of little people over a very long period of time have helped me. Certainly, all the people I've worked for over time have been sponsors. When I worked for Kyneton Cranes, they obviously provided fuel and sponsorship in that way. Who I work for now, G&G Engineering Group, they provide some sponsorship to me now. You'll see that all over my car. G&G Engineering, Bollards Direct, and the shed businesses that they own are part of that as well. So certainly Graham and Dave and the team there at G&G are very good to me. They allow me time to do this motor racing passion that we all have. But yeah, look, it's certainly my wife has obviously been a big supporter of me over a number of years and doesn't give me too much grief about our motorsport. She's great. She enjoys it. We've got a trip planned to go over to Bonneville later in the year and have a look at the Saltflat races over at Bonneville again this year. So that'll be good. So she's right into that as well. So it'll be great.
Yeah, that's cool. You might see the Bronze Aussie.
Look, if we obviously, I'm part of the Bronze Aussie team, and we do, I'm part of that. He's another fella that you should have on your podcast, being Lionel West, the driver of Bronze Aussie. We should get him on your podcast at some stage. I'll off there talk to me about that. We'll work that out. But yeah, look, certainly my son Josh and I, we rewired Bronze Aussie and redid all the electrical in that for its current incarnation. So that's been great. But Lionel and his team are good. Hopefully we get to go to the Salt this year. It might be cancelled. I hope not.
Yeah, last year you guys you got rained out, didn't you?
Yeah, look, we only got a couple of runs last year, which was a little disappointing. We got a 175 mile an hour run done, which was good. We've still got 200 licensing pass to do this year, so hopefully we get over and get all that done. I believe that we will have an idea after this weekend. I believe there's going to be an inspection this weekend of the Salt, so we'll know after this weekend whether that event's going to happen or not.
Cool. And what do they check for? Why might it be cancelled?
Well, when they did an inspection a few weeks ago of the Salt, obviously we have to access from the red dirt area onto the Salt. The entrance ramp onto the Salt area was very soft and wouldn't stand up to the whole week of people going on and off the Salt. The start line itself, the Salt was still very soft. The water table was very high. And track 2, the short track, was very soft and totally unusable. So the water table was still quite high. So what we need is some really hot, windy days. Will help it dry out. And normally when you're over there, the Salt's that hard. When you set up your tents or what, your shade sails and so on, you screw 3-inch tech screws into the Salt with a tech gun. It's like concrete. It's really hard. But at the minute, because the water table's so high, it's obviously quite soft.
Well, I don't mind if they take the heat and the wind from Bendigo and move it over there. I wouldn't mind that. That's all right then.
uh, especially today. It was fairly windy and warm today, wasn't it?
I think we got 38 or something. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I wasn't outside, so I won't comment on that one too much.
no, that's all right. But yeah, thanks John for jumping on tonight. It was awesome to have a chat to you, and obviously we've known each other for a little bit now, and look,
Yeah.
hopefully down the track you can help me out with the Mazda, and we'll see more of you.
Yeah, look, certainly. Thank you. It's certainly been an honour to be invited onto the podcast. Thank you very much. And I hope I've provided some insight into, for yourself and some of the up and coming guys that listen to you. And, my pit garage is always the same. If you see any of us at Phillip Island or Sandown or Winton or anywhere, anyone's always welcome to come in and have a look over the cars and have a sit in them and get a photo and all that sort of deal. We'll make you most welcome.
Cool. Thank you so much, John, and well done to everyone who raced at State Series last weekend and who did the Bathurst 12-hour. You guys are just doing awesome, racing all the time. So, and if you're racing this weekend, drive fast and take chances safely, of course.
No worries. All right. Thanks, Ayrton. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Look after yourself.
No worries, mate.